I handed him the paperwork. That is the part I have to own before I tell you anything else. Major Voss set the reassignment order on the table in front of me after the briefing broke up. As I signed the routing slip without asking a single question. I told myself it was administrative. I told myself the numbers were the major's business, not mine. But I was in that room for the whole 40 minutes, and I heard what he said about her record, and I signed the paper anyway. I have had to live with that. This story starts not with her competence, but with my silence, because they are the same story. The briefing was a joint certification review at Qual Flats, a wide flat installation in the high desert where they ran the long-range qualification courses. 40 officers and senior NCOs seated in 3 rows, a projector screen at the front, the kind of administrative afternoon that usually means nothing changes. Major Voss ran the marksmanship certification board. He was thorough and experienced, and had a particular way of holding a room that made disagreement feel like a waste of everyone's time. He went through each file in order, methodical, dispassionate, and he pulled up hers last. Staff Sergeant, 9 confirmed engagements, logged over 2 deployments, 7 of them at distances above 2,600 meters. He looked at the numbers for a moment before he spoke, the way a man looks at something he has already decided about. These numbers are statistically inconsistent with documented field conditions, he said. Wind readings, target movement, confirmed range data. So I'm not saying she didn't pull triggers. I'm saying a fluke string doesn't constitute a record, and I'm not certifying flukes. He looked around the room, a slow scan that invited agreement and found none and didn't need it, reassigning her to range safety until the certification audit completes. She was seated in the second row. She did not move. She did not look around to read the room or seek out any face. She watched the screen where her own score sheet was lit up, and her expression was the same one she'd had when she walked in. Level, quiet, the kind of still that reads as either vacancy or absolute command, and you do not know which until much later. Nobody spoke. The major gathered his papers. I signed the routing slip when he slid it across to me. She left the room carrying the reassignment order flat in both hands, at her sides, like it weighed nothing at all. Safety detail meant standing at the firing line with a clipboard, marking course of fire violations and flagging misfires for junior shooters running their basic qualifications. I saw her twice that week from a distance, once at the 200-meter line in the morning heat, with a young private arguing about his sight, once near the equipment cage sorting bore brushes into caliber order. Both times she was doing the task in front of her with the same precision she would have brought to anything else. She did not look reassigned. She looked like someone moving through a set of circumstances that had no bearing on what she was. I did not walk over and say anything to her. I have asked myself why many times since, and I do not have an answer that reflects well on me. I was a captain. It was the major's call. It was not my business. I had paperwork of my own. Every one of those things was true, and none of them was sufficient. On the 3rd day of her range detail, Recon Team Darrow called it in. They were a 6-man element running an observation tasking in the Darrow Creek Channel, a narrow cut in the valley floor, about 11 kilometers northeast of the main installation. The channel was a training corridor, live fire approved, restricted access, contested for the purposes of the exercise. Darrow had pushed too far forward, tracking a target signature, and walked into a blocking position they had not expected to be there. 2 men were down, not dead but immobile. The other 4 were pinned behind a rock shelf with no viable cover to the east and no egress route to the west. The blocking force held the high ground on both sides of the channel and knew exactly what it had. The duty officer who took the radio call was Captain Reyes. She came through the operations room door at a controlled run and pulled up the map on the situation table and said, "I need a long shooter right now." The problem was the bluff. One position could cover the channel floor from above, a shale outcrop on the north rim that the terrain model put at approximately 200 meters from the blocking position's center mass. The valley ran east to west, which meant any shooter on that bluff would be firing straight down the throat of the primary wind shear corridor. The Darrow Creek Channel was well known for it. A thermal differential between the valley floor and the north rim produced lateral gusts that shifted, Direction in under 4 seconds, sometimes less. Major Voss had used it as a teaching example in a tactics seminar 2 weeks prior, standing at the map board and circling the channel with a red marker. A sniper's graveyard, he had said. No solution exists at that distance in those conditions. Nobody takes that shot and hits anything. Every qualified long-range shooter on post was either in the field or uncontactable. Every single one. Reyes stared at the situation table for 3 seconds and then looked at me. She didn't have to say it. I already knew. She was at the operations room in 6 minutes, moving at a pace that looked unhurried and covered ground fast. She looked at the map, studied the terrain overlay, asked 2 questions. Composition of the blocking force, last confirmed position of the downed personnel, and then said, simply, I can take the bluff shot. Reyes said, you're on reassignment, your certification is suspended. I understand that, she said. Questing the shot. The radio clicked. Darrow called in again. 4 words. Still holding, not long. Reyes looked at me. I was the senior officer in the room. The decision was mine to make, and I had about 10 seconds to make it. I said, get her a rifle. I tracked her through binoculars from the operations vehicle parked on the North Rim Road. She covered the approach to the bluff in 11 minutes, moving low and steady along the shale, not hurrying, choosing footholds. When she reached the outcrop, she went prone, and she did not rush the setup. She built her position the way you build one when you intend to be there a while. Bipod seated, pack under her ankles. Left hand relaxed along the forend. Cheek down on the stock and eye already in the glass. Nothing wasted. Nothing performed. The wind coming up the channel was visible in the dust, spiraling off the valley floor far below. It shifted twice while I watched. Loose curls of pale dust bending first one way and then back, and she made 2 adjustments without lifting her head. Small turns of the elevation. A breath let out and held again, released. I have seen a great many shooters at work in my time. There is a quality some of them have, a quality that is very hard to name, that is not exactly stillness and not exactly patience, but something between the two. A quality of being absolutely in the right place, and knowing it. She had that. The first shot broke at 9 minutes 40 seconds after she went prone. I did not hear the impact at the distance I was. I saw the dust kick up on the valley floor, saw one of the blocking figures drop, saw the others scatter toward the eastern wall. The second shot came 8 seconds after the first. The third came 10 seconds after that. Targets, 3,200 meters. Wind shear thermals the Major had called an unsolvable problem. The radio crackled. Reyes keyed it. The channel floor, Darrow's team leader came back. We have egress. Moving now. Then 15 seconds later, a second transmission shorter, and his voice had something different in it. Something that had not been there before. Who was that shooter? Reyes gave the name and rank. There was a pause on the line. Then, copy, that was all he said. But the pause was everything. The after-action debrief convened 48 hours later. Same rooms, same 40 officers. Range Commander Colonel Adler ran it. He walked through the engagement data in sequence. Confirmed distances verified against the valley floor sensor array, confirmed wind readings at the time of each shot, the team's GPS verified egress route, the time on target from first request to element clear, each figure on the screen, and let the room look at it. Then he opened the second file. It was her full classification package, the one that required theater-level clearance to access, the one that had never appeared in the standard certification database. 11 confirmed kills over 3 years of operational deployment. Distances ranging from 2,840 meters to 4,060 meters. Field conditions documented for each engagement. Wind, visibility, target speed, range verification. At the bottom of the file, a single annotation from the theater commander. Branch record. Classification maintained pending operational security review. The room was very quiet. 3 years of classified record. That was why Major Voss had seen 9 engagements instead of 11. That was why the numbers had looked inconsistent to him. Because the hardest 2 were missing, locked behind a clearance level the certification board had never held. He had looked at an incomplete picture and called it a lie, and I had signed the paper that made it official. Colonel Adler did not editorialize. He let the screen hold what it held. Major Voss stood up from his chair. He turned to face her where she sat, Second row. Same seat as the certification review, and he came to attention and rendered a formal salute. Clean, correct, held. He kept it until she returned it. She did without any change in expression. Her hand sharp at the brow, and down, he sat back down. The room did not applaud. It didn't stir. It held the moment in silence, the way a room holds a thing that is simply too large for noise. I have thought about that week many times since. About the routing slip, mostly. 4 seconds to sign it. Maybe 5. About standing at a distance twice while she stood at the 200-meter line doing work she had not asked for, doing it with the same care she brought to everything. About the way she said, "I understand that. I'm requesting the shot," and said nothing more, made no case, appealed to no one, just waited for my answer and then went and did the thing. There is a word we use a great deal in the military: integrity. We use it to mean a kind of moral straightness, correspondence between what a person believes and what a person does. I thought I understood what it looked like until I watched her carry a reassignment order out of a room where 40 people had said nothing, and go stand at a range in the desert heat, and 3 days later, take a rifle up a shale bluff and solve the problem that was in front of her. Major Voss became a different officer after that week. Harder on his own assumptions, I was told. More careful with his conclusions. I cannot speak to what it cost him to stand and salute. I only know what it cost her to deserve it, and that she never once mentioned the price.